Everyone is Hamas. I mean, of course, Israel is Hamas. Who isn't Hamas at this point? You know, Germany is Hamas. Germany saying this is so funny. What are Benjamin Netanyahu's going to come out and be like, this is the most anti-Semitic thing that Germany has ever done in its long history. Nothing is more anti-Semitic than the recognition of a Palestinian state. Anyway, let's get into it. Germany, process to recognize Palestine state must begin now. Even they got Germany speaking out.
Germany says the process to recognize a Palestinian state must begin now. Berlin adding that Israel is increasingly in the minority over the issue of Palestine. The move comes just hours after Canada said it planned on recognizing the state of Palestine at the UN General Assembly. For more, we can go across to Nick Holdsworth standing by in Berlin. Nick, good afternoon. Just how significant is what's coming out of Germany today?
I mean, Germany is the last bastion of Israel defense. So it is fairly significant when you got, I mean, this is like, it's like America number 1, Germany number 2, Israel number 3 in terms of defending Israel. So when you got even Germany being like, oh, we are going to move to this state recognition. Yeah, that's fairly significant. I will say, that is not an insignificant move. Okay, that's shocking. I mean, even though, let's be real, and I've talked about this already, all of these statehood recognitions are coming with a shit ton of qualifiers, and they're actually not moving the needle as hard as it's supposed to, and it's pretty messed up overall. But I think it implies that the environment has changed quite a bit. On the one hand, I'm wary because it is a PR stunt. I don't trust Western nations at all. But on the other hand, I do think that the permission structure has shifted so dramatically that these guys are engaging in this to appease the masses, to appease the discontent that they are experiencing, and they have to respond. America doesn't, because America's not a democracy and America has a what you're going to do about it kind of attitude, right? Whereas like European liberal democracies at least symbolically have to defend democracy and liberal values. So I think that they're just trying to find an outlet where they could just be like, yeah, we are also responding to the increasing public pressure that is mounted against us due to this Israel stuff by saying we'll offer state recognition with these incredible conditions, of course, which renders the state recognition useless because a lot of the Palestinian state recognition actually comes from like these ridiculous qualifiers. Hey, Sean the Black, thank you for the raid. Hope you had a good stream, brother. Where a lot of the state recognition qualifiers are demilitarized Palestinian state, run by the Palestinian Authority, which is incredibly unpopular in the eyes of the Palestinians. It's not a real democratic process at all. The Palestinian Authority is a de facto arm of the Israeli security apparatus. It is the second least popular entity in the region in the eyes of the Palestinians after Israel, of course. And also the idea that they're supposed to be demilitarized makes the process of full-blown imminent. It only just like, it basically says no longer can Israel do full-blown right now in the Gaza Strip, but they can continue doing the same process that they've taken place through a sequence of checkpoints, annexation, land grabs, pogroms that they've engaged in the West Bank. That's basically what they're saying, which is Israel's goal, ultimately. I mean, how can anyone avoid or deny the reality that Israel's goal is the greater Israeli project at this point? You can't. You can't deny it. It's undeniable. That's precisely the reason why they're even making this inference, making this state recognition known, right? Why? Because Israel's campaign has gotten so unimaginably horrible that it has created this massive amount of public pressure that politicians have to respond to at this point. It's become unavoidable. Like I said, you have to become undeniable. You have to become unavoidable. If you want to let your voice be heard, if you want change to happen in the Western world, you just have to keep up the pressure. And all of a sudden, all that pressure amounts to state recognition with like these conditions. It's not enough. You have to keep pushing.
Presents a massive shift in German foreign policy. Support for Israel is built in to the German constitution. For 80 years now, since the end of the Nazi regime in 1945 and since the beginning of the German Federal Republic, which was founded in 1949, support for Israel has been part of the ground laws, as they're called in Germany, and indeed criticising Israel, that's allowed, but any anti-Semitic expression is punishable by law of up to 5 years in prison. So the fact that the German Foreign Minister, Johann Wadephol, is considering supporting a two-state solution, supporting a Palestinian state, he said it would be the end of the process rather than the beginning of the process, is extremely significant. And he's flying to Israel today to hold a meeting with his Israeli counterpart, Gideon Sair, later this afternoon. So the fact that he's released a statement before he flies to Jerusalem is extremely significant. It's putting the Israelis on notice that Germany's position is shifting.
Nick, thank you very much for the update. Nick Holdsworth reporting there from Berlin. Let's go across to Jerusalem now. France 24's Noga Donopolsky is standing by. Noga, this is a bombshell shift in tone from Germany, and it follows similar statements from other G7 states. Has there been any reaction?
There's been vicious reaction from Israel. The first country to make this announcement was France, and Israel responded by via the Prime Minister and the Foreign Minister by accusing President Macron of being a collaborator with Hamas terror, no less, of rewarding murderous Hamas terror by recognizing a Palestinian state. And clearly this is part of a well-coordinated diplomatic tsunami plan to pressure Israel.
Everyone is Hamas. I mean, of course, Israel is Hamas. Who isn't Hamas at this point? You know, Germany is Hamas. Germany saying this is so funny. What are... Benjamin Netanyahu is going to come out and be like, this is the most anti-Semitic thing that Germany has ever done in its long history. Nothing is more anti-Semitic than the recognition of a Palestinian state. Nothing. I repeat, this is far outdoing the Holocaust in magnitude. Conditional state recognition is worse than the Holocaust, is what we will hear. Oh my God. 80 years after the Holocaust, and Germany is returning to support Nazism. I mean, it's not as bad. This is not as bad as I was joking about. What I'm joking about is like someone saying this is worse than the Holocaust, okay? He's not saying that. He's saying this is the equivalent of the Holocaust. Oh, Jesus Christ. Not letting Israel do the Holocaust is basically one Holocaust, okay? That's crazy. It never stopped. As I've argued before, Germany supports Netanyahu for the same reason it birthed Hitler. Both promise to be Western bulwarks against the Untermensch, the rebellious subhumans who dared to threaten empire. I mean, it's true. Bro, Israel literally invited members of the AfD, Alternative for Deutschland, to the anti-Semitism conference, okay? They do not care about actual neo-Nazis. They love actual neo-Nazis. The only thing they care about is when people say, hey, you should stop doing a Holocaust. That's when they go, this is the most anti-Semitic thing anyone has ever said. You are basically, you denying me the right to literally do a live stream Holocaust is basically one Holocaust, okay? That's what it is. Yeah, they had to cancel the anti-Semitism conference in Israel because they invited too many anti-Semitic white supremacists, okay? That is what we're talking about here. They have no leg to stand on. It's just ridiculous. It is ridiculous. It's totally and utterly ridiculous. It's like when people go, oh, dude, you know what's really problematic? Not me being racist, you calling out my racism. That's what's pissing me off. That's the real issue here. It's like, no, I think it was the original racism that's the real issue.
It's not just the UK and France and Canada and now Germany, a country with which Israel has uniquely close ties, who are discussing the possibility and the eventual necessity of recognizing a Palestinian state. But as our colleague Nick just said, the German minister is doing so on his way to Israel. He's about to arrive in Jerusalem. And we also have Sweden. The prime minister in Sweden called for suspending the European free trade agreement with Israel. So these are all extremely serious matters. They indicate the complete collapse of Israeli foreign policy that we have seen under Prime Minister Netanyahu during this war. I mention his name in particular because Netanyahu has long presented himself to Israelis as, and I'm quoting now from his many political campaigns, as in another league, in a more elevated diplomatic league, as the one specialist who really...
Bro, it turns out, even by European standards, okay, after centuries of death, destruction, extraction of natural resources from the global south, slavery, even with all the bounties of colonial empire, even the Europeans have like a distaste for maximum death and destruction, like doing a 13th century style siege on a captive population that has iPhones and can literally elevate the problem directly to the doorstep of every single person in the Western world is untenable. Who would have thought? Okay. It turns out, regardless of the multi-billion-dollar influence peddling operation and advocacy groups that you have cultivated over a long period of time, over multiple decades, in an effort to align so perfectly with Western foreign policy in this resource-rich region, there is only so much death and destruction that even the most racist, Islamophobic people will allow, okay? We are there. We are there. There is no starvation of children that is appropriate in the eyes of the Western world, so much so that even liberal politicians in America have to respond to this and be like, okay, I don't know how we got here, but oops, we can't do this any longer. Okay? That's it. I can't even, like, I thought, and I say this as someone who constantly talks about how depraved we are here in the West, right? In the comfort of our homes. But I thought even this would have been packed up a long time ago. I thought that there was only so much death and destruction that people would be on board with. I literally thought, you know, the entirety of the hospital system collapsing in the Gaza Strip was enough. I thought it should have been enough. This should have ended a year ago. This should have been ended a year ago with prosecutions coming in instantly. It is crazy that there is still people holding out hope that, you know, you can complete the ethnic cleansing. You can complete the ethnic cleansing campaign. It's crazy. I had a fun interaction today. An older Jewish woman sits out with a sign that says "Free Palestine, my city" almost every day. An Israeli dude goes and starts harassing her. So I step in. He then tells me that I'm Hamas and I look like an Arab. He does what the typical Israeli does and spits in my feet. Then I tell him I'm Jewish, to which he says, "You are no Jew," and walked off. I called him an anti-Semitic pig as he walked away. Classic. That's the craziest thing because look. The time is, the attitude shift is so dramatic. I'm telling you right now, people, even liberal Zionists, are going to point to guys like that and basically be like, oh, they're just like extremists. They don't represent us, okay? It's coming. It's coming because the association of Judaism with Israel only worked as a defensive posture when everybody thought Israel is awesome. Now that everybody knows Israel is not awesome at all, oh my God, everything that Israel now represents is no longer like the pharmaceutical industry and like making the desert bloom and being the most gay moral democracy in the region or whatever, and instead ethnic cleansing and the starvation of children for some kind of like loose association with religion that is a false conflation to begin with. Now that is the only thing that Israel is known for, understandably, I think Jews in the Western world are probably going to forcibly separate themselves from this association and actually look negatively upon this association in the future. Now, not yet. And there are still plenty of people who personally hang on to this notion that you can continue defending it. Okay, you can continue defending Israel. You can continue defending Israel. You can keep going back to the old tricks and be like, look at the enemies of Israel. They're all barbaric. They're monsters. They're monsters. They're monsters. But I don't think it's going to continue. I think for the average person, they have completely checked out. Okay, they've checked out. Not gonna lie, you do more work defending the rights of Muslims in the West than any actual Muslim speakers out here. And yes, because they're bought and sold. Okay. Also, what do you mean actual Muslim? Listen, regardless of my lack of regardless of me being a bad Muslim, okay, it doesn't matter. My name is Hasan, so they don't let me get away with that. They don't go, yeah, this guy's not a real one. Okay. Oh my God, Kaya's snoring so loud. It is crazy.
Be Israel's face to the world. All of that is crumbling very, very quickly right now.
And Noga, I'm just curious, what are ordinary Israelis saying about this shift in tone that's coming from right around the world? Do they feel alone now?
I think Israel.
Do they feel alone now? I mean, dude, I don't think shit. Israeli society broadly thinks about these sorts of things any longer. I think they have found a perfect thought terminating cycle here where they just go, oh, it's anti-Semitism. Okay. It's such a powerful, powerful motivator because anti-Semitism has been a blight for thousands of years, and anti-Semitism still certainly exists. Okay. So because of that reason, I think it's even more powerful than when white Christians in America talk about white Christian persecution, okay? Because there is a validity to the marginalization. That is the reason why I think it is virtually impossible to get people in Israel to understand why they are being considered as a pariah state. Having said that, however, just as though white Afrikaners started slowly but surely coming to that recognition that they had become a pariah due to their apartheid, I think a lot of Israelis will eventually say, hey, we got to stop this. Like, this is crazy. It's done. Even if they do, it's done. Zionism as a project is, in my opinion, over. It's been over. This is the death knell of Zionism as a project. It's so funny. I tweeted this thing that is not exactly the most... it's not like this is like, I'm limited by the word count on Twitter, right? I said one phone call is all it would take to stop Israel's genocide. If Israel doesn't comply, shut off weapons transfers. If Israel looks to get weapons elsewhere, put a sanctions package. And if that fails, invade Israel militarily. This is why all it takes is one phone call. And a lot of people got very mad at this. They said, this is childish. This is childish. This is childish. Okay. This guy, for example, said this alone should disqualify this guy from any serious discourse law. He's just a frat bro who, at the end of the day, is an entertainer first and foremost. And even that is a stretch. I said, U.S. presidents have stopped Israel with one phone call under Reagan, George H.W. Bush, and even Biden in 2021. What made you feel so confident in your stupidity? Leave your hug box immediately. And I don't understand because, like, it is objectively untrue. I'm the one in a hug box. You are surrounded by yes men. Won't talk to actual educated people with differing viewpoints who would legitimately challenge your stream. You cry when friends make slight jabs at you. You bam. I don't know what this guy is talking about. He follows Tectone. I don't know who this guy is, but I just don't understand. Like, none of this is relevant to my point. Chad is the biggest op. What do you mean? No, I just don't get it. I don't get it. I don't get it. I don't get it. I don't get it. Like, none of this makes sense. For say you can't even watch videos criticizing you. It's like, dude, you have a childish brain, okay? You have the brain of a child. You have the brain of a child because we're talking about, like, foreign policy. You say I'm wrong in my assessment. You say it's a childlike way of understanding foreign policy. And it's an oversimplified thing that I'm saying there, right? One phone call. It's not literally one singular phone call. Okay, it's as close to one phone call as it can get. Having said that, however, you don't address the point that I'm making. This is what is so frustrating about trying to do political commentary in this field, right? Because I'm trying to have a normal conversation on the issues, but people immediately go back to being like, no, you're stinky and I don't like you. And the reason why I don't like you is because of all of these things that I just made up. Like, okay, answer my question. If you think one phone call is so ridiculous as an assessment, answer the question. Why has one phone call been all that is necessary to stop Israel's bloodshed in the past? It doesn't make sense. It's so silly. This is not Like, you didn't answer the argument. This right here is a perfect demonstration of the discourse and how stupid it is when you try to have a conversation about politics with people who don't actually care about the politics at all, who basically have decided what their political perspective is simply on the boundaries of who they like as a content creator and who they hate as a content creator. Okay? Yeah. Biden stopped Israel with one phone call in 2021. How did that happen? It's just a faucet of irrelevant things, okay? That guy has 0 tweets containing the word genocide until he responded to you. The U.S. wields enough power over Israel as client state to get it to change course, as has been demonstrated repeatedly. Almost the entire world agrees that Israel should stop occupying the Palestinian territories and resist a global consensus. The only reason Israel behaves the way it does is unfailing U.S. support, which it won't be able to reliably count on indefinitely. Exactly. And that is the reason. That is the reason why it's so important for people like yourselves, people like myself, to continue pressuring politicians, to continue pressuring the administration, even though it seems impossible, even though change seems impossible. Okay? You have to keep pushing. It's that simple. Because every step that you take, damn, why didn't you ever have a take like that, Lamau? Wait, what? That's the same take. That tweet is basically the same exact tweet that I just described the steps as to why it would take one phone call to stop. What? Yes, it is a joke. You've said it forever. Oh, okay. SRGFX, thank you for the 25 get the subs. What you might be saying is that the phone call is not possible this time because it could be the end of Israel. It is really on the brink. What it has done can't be undone. Everyone would attack Israel without U.S. backing. What? No, that's not how this goes. Okay? That's not how this goes at all. No, the funniest criticism of this that I saw was people being like, oh, I thought Hasan hated military intervention. Now he wants to invade. Hasan hated the Iraq invasion, which was illegal. So he hates the classic. He wants to invade the Jewish nation state. It's like, dude, they are literally doing Nazi shit, okay? If there was ever a valid military invasion, it would be this one. It's never going to get to that point regardless. My point is, it never has to get to that point. Because that being the maximalist position implies that one phone call is all it would take. That's the whole point of this tweet. That's it. Anyway, man, people who celebrate D-Day don't understand that, the force that they were, why are they dunking on any of this? They're not dunking. They're just like yelling into a void, okay? People are lashing on you because they know you were right since October 7 and they weren't as pathetic behavior. No, I think like people are doing that because they also can't contend with open defense of Israel at this point. So instead of openly defending Israel at this point, they still have to they have to grab on to anyone they can and to be like, oh, well, this person is anti-Semitic, I think, please. Or this person is crazy. His opinions are crazy. It's just like they can't contend with the reality shifting at an alarming rate around them as more and more people come to the terms with the reality on the ground. So they have to just like lash out at people who are right all along. That's it. It's no different than like what Matty Iglesias is doing. But because Matty Iglesias is a professional adult that works in media, he obviously has to take a different tone than people who are still holding out hope for some kind of defense of Israel by just simply attacking Israel's critics.
Israelis feel extremely alone, more and more isolated, and increasingly in ways that regular Israelis can feel. Israel has been distanced from the rest of the world during this long period of war, in part because foreign airlines have stopped flying here. It has become more and more risky to be an Israeli abroad. To be heard speaking Hebrew has become a draw for in some cases, real violence. And remember that the Israeli prime minister, this same magician of diplomacy, now faces indictments from the International Criminal Court. So he can barely travel abroad. He used to be a standard bearer for Israel. I do think that it's important to remember that a two-state solution, until fairly recently, was the official position of the Israeli state. The state of Israel said, we want to live side by side with an eventual state of Palestine. It is Prime Minister Netanyahu who in a fairly recent statement a few years ago said, "Over my dead body, will there be a state of Palestine?" He turned this issue into a taboo when it is almost by definition an Israeli interest to be able to live side by side in peace with Palestinians. And now this taboo that he created is being used against him and is being used against Israel by allied leaders who were searching for some way, any way they could pressure him, now that the Trump administration appears to have decided to give him almost blanket support.
Well, we'll see if that does shift once those discussions with Steve Witkoff start. Thank you very much for that, Noga Tanopolsky, reporting there for us from Jerusalem.
What's going to happen when it goes back to the exact same method? I got called a capo today by the president of my alma mater, Jewish Alumni Association, after trying to dox a girl for shitting on someone for wearing an IOF shirt at the local gym in my college town. After you try to dox a girl for, shitting on someone for wearing an IOF shirt. Yeah, I mean, look, listen, the more discourse shifts against Israel as politicians and the media play catch up to where the public attitude has been for quite a while, right? Because that's what the media is doing. That's what the politicians are doing. They're playing catch up. The more its defenders, Israel's defenders, will cynically try to attack its critics, okay? They cannot contend with the walls closing in. That's it. It's in its death throes. Zionism as a project is in its death throes. Israel is a pariah state that even politicians are being forced to recognize as a pariah state now. And while they take their sweet ass time, with like these incredibly convoluted and restrictive conditional recognitions, okay, that will open up a permission structure for people like ourselves to continue our advocacy. That's it. I never thought that I would see the day where, I mean, you know, this kind of commentary is silly, but like the Pod Johns sound like me a year ago, you know? Like you got Pod Save America, you got Obama's speech writing team and its podcasting circle that is fairly influential, right? They are now talking like I was speaking a year ago. That, I think, is a signal of... That's why we say, one day, everyone will have always been against this. Trump is now also trying to weaponize the tariffs again against Canada. Trump hints no Canada trade deal over Palestine recognition. Ridiculous. It still feels like people are trying to qualify their statements by being like, Israel was right to respond to October 7th the way they did, but now they've gone too far. Yeah, that's bullshit. Okay, that's bullshit. The idea of like claiming, you know, Israel has a right to defend itself, or but Hamas, like these kinds of qualifiers are ridiculous. Okay, no one has a right to do a genocide. It's that simple, which is why so many people refuse to say it. So many people still refuse to say Israel's an apartheid. So many people refuse to say Israel's doing a genocide. The reason why they can't say it, Bernie Sanders, okay, is because Israel does not have a right to a genocide. No one has a right to do a genocide. There's no justification for it. So because Israel is currently doing a genocide, and many people are recognizing it as such, okay, many more people are recognizing it as such, especially at this point, people that are still holding on to this notion of Israel just like kind of getting ahead of itself and only accidentally, oopsie, doing this ethnic cleansing campaign, are speaking to a reality that doesn't exist. Yeah, I saw a Boston Celtics player's sister going off on someone defending an Israeli player that wants to educate Americans on what's really happening. Yeah, I saw. I actually liked her response to this as well. Anna Horford, okay, the sister of Boston Celtics power forward Al Horford, goes on a nasty rant against Danny Avdija for supporting his home country, Israel. And then it's an Israeli flag and then a shy emoji. Danny is a hero. If you don't know him, he is up-and-coming Israeli all-star player who plays for the Portland Trail Blazers. Everyone show him support. This was the tweet. Danny Avdija says he's willing to educate people in the U.S. Not everyone understands 100% what is happening in Israel. We're a very small country. We are a small country. And there are people who live in bubbles in their countries. Many are interested. And I always explain the whole situation. Anna Horford says, this is like a both sides what Israel's doing. Israeli denial and lack of accountability will be studied for decades to come. The NBA is made worse by his presence. Okay. Denny is 100% Albanian, man. Yeah, I don't know this dude's background, but she responded and I really liked it. She said, heroes don't support genocide and apartheid. Outdated Zionist propaganda doesn't work anymore. The world sees you for who you are. Respect. It's a tiny nation. Israel, tiny nation. Why you come after Israel? It's tiny nation. His dad played for Yugoslavia? A shame. No way, really? God damn, Tito would be disgusted. Trump warns Jewish donor. MAGA is starting to hate Israel. Not enough. Not hard enough. Okay. The craziest thing that I have heard was a friend's brother agreeing that it's a genocide and apartheid. For that reason, they should exist. Wait, what? A small but vocal contingent of his MAGA base, including younger Republicans and far-right podcasts, have grown skeptical of Washington's relationship with Israel. My people are starting to hate Israel. Trump recently warned a prominent Jewish donor. Yeah, no shit, dude. Anyway, there is a technical reason and a really cynical, really tough reason, for the record, why many politicians, including maybe Bernard Sanders, who refuse to call it a genocide, because a genocide is illegal and aiding and abetting a nation that is conducting a genocide is also illegal. And unless you're AOC and you somehow say Israel's doing a genocide, but we also have to defend it, most politicians don't want to say the first part because the second part looks stupid when you say the first part. AOC literally says a genocide, but then turns around and is like, but we still have to give defensive weapons to the country doing genocide. Okay, well, you're out of your mind then. Okay, that doesn't make any sense whatsoever. Ridiculous. But that's what it is. That's where it comes from. As if the size of a country determines your responsibility towards international laws and human rights. Yeah. Israel, tiny nation. Okay, well, you're still doing a genocide to 2 million people right now. Okay, and an apartheid to another 2.5. And you refuse to let, like, basically the remaining 10 million Palestinians back into their ancestral homelands. That's pretty up. I don't give a shit what size you are. Also, it doesn't matter what size you are. You got nukes and America's backing you to the hilt. It's just, like I've said, dude, I think there are many things that Israel did wrong in this process. There are many things that Israel did really wrong in this process, okay? But one of the things that I identified early on was the comfort that Israeli envoys experienced for many, many decades, okay? As they were able to freely contextualize why all of this bloodshed was totally appropriate. And if you actually criticized it, you were anti-Semitic, and that would just shut off all kinds of responses instantly, right? Now that no longer exists, they thought they could still get away with that bullshit. And because of that, when they couldn't get away with it, they got incredibly arrogant. I'm sorry, but if you're that arrogant, obviously Americans who don't give a shit are going to turn around and go, oh, I don't know about this. What do you mean? You've gotten billions of dollars in weapons, big dog. What is happening here? Let's dial it back a little bit.
Yeah.
Rogan has gone full woke.
And then they're kicking students out that like write articles they don't like.
Yeah, that's nuts.
I mean, I talked about this before when he first covered this.
Isn't a university supposed to be a place where someone's allowed to express themselves and have
non-violently?
Yeah.
This is the average American's perspective, though. Even the average American who doesn't necessarily give a shit about like what Israel is doing all that much sees like the death and destruction, thinks, this is not great. But then more consequentially, more significantly, Americans hate censorship and cancel culture. And then all of a sudden, the position of defending Israel revolves around an endless amount of cancel culture and an endless amount of violations of the First Amendment, like actual, real violations of the First Amendment, not simply saying, oh, you made me feel bad and now I'm going to yell at you, but actually prosecution from the government. Americans see that and they go, okay, well, this is extra ridiculous.
So they're writing something down and they're not calling for violence either. And they're getting challenged. And that's supposed to be how it happens. You get challenged, smarter people have better arguments, or your argument stands.
Right, discourse.
Yes.
It's supposed to be a place for discourse.
That's what it's supposed to be.
Yeah.
And you're deporting people because you don't like who they're criticizing, like that gets kind of shifty.
Yeah. podcasters especially are not beholden to the administration to the same degree as like a Charlie Kirk is. Okay. And for that reason, they will basically pull out. They're like rats. They will pull out when they see things that they think are unconscionable. The free world has a moral responsibility to Palestinians in distress. Flood Gaza with food, says Richie Torres. Wow. He got woke, dude. They cheer for genocide and starve our people, but once the damage is done and the impact is irreversible, they divorce themselves from the depravity and act like they had the moral position all along. That's crazy, because that's crazy to me, because I feel like Richie Torres was, I'm blocked by him, by the way. I feel like he's been the #1 attack dog for Israel in Congress. What's going on, dude? What an attitude shift here. What an attitude. What changed, Richie? Bitchy Torres? Oh, you got scared you're going to get primaried? Is that what happened? And you still, I hope you do. But yeah, this is why, by the way, this is part of the reason why I said it's not just about AIPAC dollars. Okay? It's not just about the money that these politicians get from AIPAC or other Israel advocacy groups. Okay? Do you understand? It's also, more importantly, a direct consequence of America's foreign policy needs and how much they can support that without increasing public scrutiny. That's why public pressure matters. Because when it becomes unavoidable, public pressure becomes unavoidable on this issue, and you are known for being the champion of this issue, the champion of starving children in Gaza. Okay? All of a sudden, you're out there alone, and no amount of AIPAC dollars will save you. Richie and many others are there, okay? They are recognizing the attitude shift. They're recognizing how much the public is grossed out by Israel and Israel's actions, and defending Israel can put you underwater, especially in the Democratic Party. Okay? That's it. That's where we're at. So if they want to, actually, like I said, since they have sidestepped every bridge and every exit ramp, every opportunity that they had to say the right thing, to change their trajectory, to change their attitude on this issue, okay? Right now, if you're coming out and being like, oh no, how could this have happened? Oh no, all this shit. If you're saying that right now, that's not enough. You have to literally go out on a limb and be a radical politician. You have to go out on a limb and say, this is a genocide. This is unacceptable. Okay? To make up for lost time. You have to start outflanking centrist Democrats. Okay?
Images out of Gaza have shocked the world. You got starving children, desperate crowds of people seeking food, and the unbelievable gaslighting by Israeli Prime Minister Bibi Netanyahu, who demands that we believe him and not our lying eyes. Here's an example.
Israel is presented as though we are applying a campaign of starvation in Gaza. What a bold-faced lie. There is no policy of starvation in Gaza, and there is no starvation in Gaza.
So this conflict, this issue, it comes with a lot of history. It's very emotional. It's politically fraught here in the United States in particular. And there are, as are so many of these seemingly intractable political problems here in the United States. So what we are trying to do here at Pod Save America is create a new space on this channel for debate and conversation that brings together everybody from the left, the never Trump right, all the pod bros, all the neolib shills, all the abundance pill dorks, everybody in between, to have a conversation that tries to help us figure out some answers to these problems.
What? Unlikely to happen? Would you consider sitting down and talking to Cory about what made him change his mind? Cory Booker? Who said his mind has changed? Cory Booker 2 weeks ago was ass grabbing with Benjamin Netanyahu. His mind has not changed. What, are you kidding me? What's Cory Booker? I think you meant Richie Torres. Senator Sanders' resolution to block offensive arms sales in response to civilian casualties in Gaza and the ongoing humanitarian crisis there fails in the Senate 2770, but notably 12 Dems voted yes that didn't support a similar resolution in April, a notable shift. It's up to 27. The depravity is clear, okay? The Democrats are depraved. The Republicans are already evil monsters. We already know that. But the fact that the Dems have only gone up to 27 at this point is crazy. Here's what Cory Booker did. 17 Democrats voted no, effectively a yes vote for more bombs on Palestine. Bennett, Blumenthal, Booker, there it is, Cantwell, Coons, Cortez Masto, Fetterman, Gillibrand, Maggie Hasan, Hickenlooper, Padilla, of course, Peters, Rosen, Schiff, Schumer, Warner, and Wyden. 3 convening absences were Gallego, and Mark Kelly and Elisa Slotkin. Vote because she's too busy on. She was too busy going on the Colbert Report. California is so cooked. Yeah, it appears Slotkin skipped 2 votes to block arms sales to Israel tonight to go on Colbert. Good stuff. Incredible. Remember how she was talking to Crystal Ball about this? Where it's like, oh, this is something I will consider. It turns out she was considering escaping. That's what she was considering. We'll talk about the Colbert Report stuff in a second, okay? You're right, though, on the legality of labeling a genocide, but then sending aid, it would stop them. Exactly. That's why. And not just not just offensive weapons. It would be illegal. It should be illegal. It is illegal to send Israel any aid right now under our pre-existing laws. This is why we kept repeating the Leahy law over and over again when Biden was the president. It's ridiculous. Anyway, here's Trump literally defending Israel again because Canada is posturing towards state recognition for Palestine.
Trump suggesting he won't make a trade deal with Canada. Trump posting on Truth Social, quote, Canada just announced that it is backing statehood for Palestine that will make it very hard for the U.S. to make a trade deal with them. Canada faces a 35% levy on imported.
Where do I direct my anger? Like they bombed every building, every hospital, every single refugee camp, death did nothing. Why is food the issue? I have repeated this over and over again. Denial of aid is irredeemable in the eyes of legal authorities. It is the most overt version of ethnic cleansing. Okay? Under legal circumstances, you can actually engage in this horrifying calculation of collateral damage. This person was a priority target. Maybe he wasn't supposed to be a priority target, but we assessed it and we thought he was a priority target and we killed 50, 60 people alongside him. That can be defended. Not to say it's defensible. It's still immoral and ridiculous, but that is still something you can technically defend under international humanitarian law. Okay? There is a level of plausible deniability. There is no level of plausible deniability for refusal to render aid to a civilian population that you are bombing. If they simply killed everyone in Gaza by bombing them while simultaneously allowing aid to go in to the Gaza Strip, there would be less anger. I'm telling you right now, there is no defense for refusing to allow aid into an area that you're bombing. There's no legal defense for not having any safe zones, for example. Like areas that you do not bomb. You can't defend that. It is indefensible. You will never find an NGO or any sort of legal institution that will try to defend it. That's why Israel denies that it's happening. Okay? Israel doesn't deny that they're blowing up houses and shit. They do it in broad daylight, but they deny that they're refusing aid into the Strip. The reason why they have to deny it is because it is completely illegal. It's like it is the one thing that is a non-starter for every NGO, for every international human rights lawyer, for every single advocacy group. It is for every single organ of justice on the international scale. It does not matter. You will never be able to defend it. It is indefensible.
Goods if it does not strike a deal by tomorrow's deadline.
Canada has joined the growing list of nations.
It is the red line. And of course, the images of the depraved starvation campaign of Israel is obviously going to make people very angry. I just don't get it. Why don't Dems oppose genocide completely, at least for political gain? Why do they intentionally hurt themselves? Because they're old and because they're echo chambered, because they're cynical, because they understand that this is American foreign policy and it will not move an inch until it is impossible not to. Okay? I mean, dude, they threw the election away because of their refusal to acknowledge that Israel was committed to this genocidal campaign. It's because it's a formative part of American foreign policy in the region. That's it.
Changing their stance on the Middle East conflict after recent pictures seem to support evidence of mass starvation. Canada now says it plans to recognize Palestinian statehood. The UK and France have made similar announcements, which could affect a future peace process. Canada's Mideast policy is now at odds with President Trump, who said their announcement could impact the chances of reaching a trade deal with the U.S. Human rights groups are using strong new language about what's happening in Gaza. Deborah Patta has the latest and a warning. The images are disturbing.
The war in Gaza has reached a tipping point as images of starving children have shaken the world. But a growing number of organizations, including the UN and on Monday 2 Israeli human rights groups, are not just accusing Israel of deliberate starvation, but of a far graver crime.
Israel is committing genocide against the Palestinians in the Gaza Strip.
It's a charge Israel...
I'm frustrated because on the one hand, it is still exceptionalism. It is still supremacist to only say, oh, finally it's here. Now that like Israeli NGOs are also recognizing it. But also on the other hand, from the optics game, I do think that it becomes even more indefensible for many hanger-ons and many people in the margins that just simply refuse to recognize the reality up until this point. So I'll take it. It's the same thing. It's the same principle that I have because, like, on the one hand, I have to be pragmatic. Okay, I have to be pragmatic. We all have to be pragmatic, and we all have to recognize that this is a step in the right direction. It's a good thing that like the Israeli NGOs are also admitting this reality, even though it's 22 months in. It will create more pressure. Having said that, make no mistake. It absolutely is Jewish supremacist and exceptionalist to overall refuse to recognize these atrocities when the Palestinians say it. Okay? When the Palestinians talk about their own conditions, everybody turns a blind eye. When people like myself try to highlight the plight of the Palestinians by directly showing you exactly what the Palestinians are saying, okay? They say, you're crazy, shut the up. They try to deplatform people like ourselves. Only until it's an Israeli official or only until it's an Israeli NGO that openly recognizes it 22 months in, do people go, okay, I guess it's happening. It's bullshit. You know? Terrorists, until, what, B'Tselem says so? Okay. Well, you didn't give a shit when B'Tselem recognized the apartheid.
Vehemently denies.
It is baseless. There is no intent. Key for the charge of genocide.
But by respected medical journal The Lancet, a group of health professionals said it was time to break the silence on genocide. Their findings made since October 7, 2023 are damning. Life expectancy has reportedly fallen by 35 years. Gaza has the highest number of child deaths of any conflict zone, and
by the way, the very fact that many smart people still refuse to call it a genocide, even though it clearly is one, is because of the additional complications that come along with that designation, that legal designation. And that's precisely why you should keep pushing people to say it, including Bernie Sanders. Okay? That's it. Because the moment that people recognize the reality that it is a genocide, okay, is the moment where all cards are off the table. You can't deny, you can't give aid to Israel, you can't defend Israel. There's no more defending genocide. You're a genocide defender at that point. And up until that moment of recognition, you were a genocide denier. That is precisely the reason why still so many liberal Zionists, from Bernie Sanders to the J Street guy that Mehdi Hasan debated, they just refuse to recognize it. They just refuse to say it's a genocide. But just like they refuse to recognize the war crimes or the ethnic displacement or the plight of the Palestinians up until 22 months in, they will inevitably recognize that as well. So I don't understand how these guys don't even think about their own personal futures, where they just kind of throw that out. They just don't realize how this looks. You look like a fool right now when you say, oh, I've come to the conclusion that everyone has been on for the past year and a half. Okay, great. But now you're still trying to be a setback. Now you are still trying to present yourself as a hurdle for further initiatives to be taken to stop this bloodshed. You look like an idiot right now. You're going to look even more like an idiot and an immoral monster down the line. You already are, but people will come to that recognition.
Report concludes starvation has been relentlessly used as a weapon of war. For CBS Mornings, I'm Deborah Patter in East Jerusalem.
The level of human suffering in Gaza is intolerable.
In another major blow to Israel, Canada announcing it'll recognize a Palestinian state.
By the way, the other part of the reason why people can't say genocide is because if you say it's genocide, then what Ansar Allah is doing is valid and just. The Houthis in Yemen, okay? What Hezbollah is doing is valid and just in Lebanon. They're not doing anything anymore because they're done, but all of a sudden, because it is, by the way, it is, literally, and all of a sudden, what we did to stop the Houthis from trying to stop Israel's genocide, all of a sudden we're the bad guys. You understand? We are too closely associated as a belligerent in this conflict. That's the problem. I have no idea what movement means here. Dems in Congress are welcome to sign on to bills to stop the transfer of offensive weapons to Israel, but orgs attempting to rebrand need some type of accountability. J Street aggressively lobbied against the ceasefire for months. They did, which was crazy. Shouldn't they at least have to explain why they did so? Why they threatened members of Congress who supported a ceasefire in October, November, and December of 2023? There's two things being conflated here. Political coalition building around the specific demands and reputation laundering. Again, the issue around genocide is not a linguistic litmus test. It's that the label confers urgent legal and moral obligations. It has meaning. It is not a purity test or whatever. If one can't meet the baseline agreement, then there's deep disagreement as to what is going on. Read the statements coming from liberals who are supposedly joining in on the movement, in air quotes. Many of them, though not all, still have a demand Hamas disarm and surrender. This is not a change of position. It's simply rebranding support of genocide. I am all for strategic compromise, but there's an obvious risk by watering down demands to offensive carve-outs in bills everyone knows will never pass. We are not building meaningful opposition, but instead engaging in reputation laundering as a get-out-the-vote strategy for the midterms. Yeah. And Democrats who literally cast aside their electoral chances because they were tied to the hip to Israel are going to do it again here. They're going to be like, oh, dude, you're being silly. You're being ridiculous. Not sure why you're being so obtuse about this. A senator can vote against weapons shipments without saying genocide. You could attend a protest without saying it. Political movements win through addition, not by demanding everyone say the exact same thing. This is beyond fatuous. No one is demanding senators not vote against Israel if they don't use the word genocide. It isn't clear what this alleged gatekeeping would even look like. What I'm saying is failure to meet this baseline, this very baseline demand indicates PR, not substantive opposition. You're spiking the football over an ultimately meaningless vote. People are still being shot by the dozens every day, and the genocide is unabated. Many Dems, though not all, are very obviously using this opportunity to launder their own complicity. That is not progress. That's exactly what's going on. And no, Tommy doesn't suck. No, stop. I'm not saying this because I talk to them from time to time. It's not the reason. The reason why, Tommy Vitor himself, okay, is, I think, amongst powerful people within the Democratic Party, Tommy Vitor has a lot more influence, commands a lot more influence than someone like myself does. Okay? I think Tommy Vitor is on board. So is Ben Rhodes. People that have played a formative role in Obama's foreign policy. Ben Rhodes, right? He's also one of the pod Johns, one of the pod bros. They're on board. They see it. They recognize it. Okay? They recognize it, regardless of their past actions under the Obama administration. You're joking, right? No, I think they recognize what is going on. They literally sound like me a year ago. Okay? That's important to acknowledge. That's important to recognize. Okay? But having said that, they should push even further. They should push even further. And not only should they push even further, they should be on board with applying pressure to Democrats who are simply cynically using this as a way to be like, we know it's not going to pass, but this is make it seem like we're on the right side of a popular issue without any sort of real interest without any sort of real interest in changing the outcome for the Palestinians. That's why I always say, I don't care what someone's like background is or what they've said up until this point, as long as what they're saying from this point on is unconditional support to the Palestinians and an immediate end to this genocide, then it's fine. We can talk about where you were and what it took for you to get here after. Okay? So my criticism of people right now revolves around the many who refuse to take that leap, who just do this still wishy-washy bullshit, who still present themselves as a hurdle against the emancipatory needs of the Palestinians while recognizing that there is a death and destruction campaign, a genocide. You're saying he doesn't suck because he has more influence than you? No. No. You're misunderstanding what I'm saying. I'm saying Tommy Vitor doesn't suck because he recognizes what's going on. He is, and he does speak out against it. And I'm saying it's important for someone with that much influence, a lot more influence within powerful circles than myself, to actually be consistently communicating this. Because let's be real. No Democratic senator is ever going to hear me. Okay? They're never going to hear me, even when I'm talking to them directly. It's in through one ear, out through the other. They see me simply as a pathway to reach out to these like rudderless young men, and that's it. Okay? But they do listen to Tommy Vitor and the Podjohns in general. But again, I agree with Adam Johnson, as I say quite frequently, that it's not simply a choice word. It's not like, this is not a semantics argument. Genocide is a legal designation. It is a legal designation, and they know it's a legal designation that comes with additional complications for people who do want to still continue supporting Israel. Kaya. Place. What is Bernie's argument that it isn't a genocide? How does he justify this? He already said it yesterday. He said, oh, it's a legal term. I don't do legal back and forths or whatever. We leave that up to the experts. It's like, no, you don't. You don't leave murder up to the experts. That's a legal term too. You know? There is no problem with saying that an invasion is illegal when it's a foreign adversary. We don't say, oh, let's leave it up to the experts. He keeps saying you can call it whatever you want, but the people are asking, why aren't you calling it? And it's just a way for him to, I think, like, to move away from that conversation. Anyway, also, it is kind of silly to say, let's leave it up to the experts on calling it a genocide. Experts are calling it a genocide. The fuck?
Canada has long been committed to a two-state solution. An independent, viable, and sovereign Palestinian state living side by side with the state of Israel in peace and security.
Israel condemning the move as rewarding Hamas terrorism. But the world's reacting to images like this. Gaza in the grips of near famine, according to UN experts. And efforts to deliver more food by air and land proving difficult, chaotic, and often deadly. A new UN video showing gunshots near...
What is this? Carney has signaled and private support will be unconditional. He is moving the sails on a boat at the podium. These kinds of leaders need our support and motivation. Use your base and the pod bros, etc. to help them gain speed. What? Exactly, which is why Carney is working behind the scenes to entrap Israel. If there's a leader right now who can, it's Carney. We have to encourage him to keep grinding on this. Let's support whomever is taking real actions, especially the people who congregate meaningful political power. You matter a lot here. I don't know about that, dude.
A crowd desperate for food Wednesday. At least 85 people have been killed trying to get aid in the last day, including at least 13 this morning, according to the Hamas-run Ministry of Health in Gaza. Israel rejecting accusations its troops opened fire, saying they only fired warning volleys. Meanwhile, the hunger crisis only growing worse. At least 150 dying from malnutrition, according to the Gaza Health Ministry. More than half of these children. The US Special Envoy in Israel today, an American volunteer doctor in Gaza, urging him to come and see for himself what's happening on the ground.
Mr. Witkoff, just come here right now.
Well, what we're seeing now, what we understand is that Steve Witkoff is going to meet with Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu to discuss a ceasefire, the return of hostages alive and dead, and also how to alleviate the suffering in Gaza.
Good evening. President Trump's special envoy has met Benjamin Netanyahu as international pressure grows on the Israeli leader to end the war in Gaza. In scenes that have become all too familiar, officials in Gaza say at least 91 people were killed while trying to get aid in the past day. Not only is Steve Witkoff trying to salvage ceasefire talks.
Wait. Hold on. The one phone call tweet, negative reactions. Avi Bitterman says the I'm Not Dying for Israel crew would ultimately, if push came to shove, be quite happy to send Americans to die for Israel. By for Israel, this is obviously a cheeky way of saying for the purpose of invading, killing, destroying Israel or something along those lines. The point is that I'm Not Dying for Israel sentiments are meant to be an anti-war Israel signal, when in reality it's not really anti-war as much as it's anti about who's on the other side. Yeah, it's about anti-genocide, dude. Yeah, that's the point. Also, it never has to get to that point. That's the reason why I said this is why all it takes is one phone call. These people are so stupid. It will never get to that point, okay? Unless, this guy's a doctor? Really? What the? Doctor of genocide. No one got your point? No, they're being deliberately obtuse because it's indefensible. It is indefensible. That's the reason why they are trying to be deliberately obtuse, okay? It is apparently an article of faith in some circles that Biden could have stopped the Israeli invasion of Gaza at any point with one phone call. Seems false. When pressed on this, it turns out the proposed one phone call is a threat of American ground invasion of Israel. Once again, this is reductive, but it's really interesting. Not only is this reductive, but it's pretty basic stuff. I'm not saying it's just one phone call. I'm saying as to why it's about that one phone call, okay? Because we're supplying them. Without our weapons, 70% of all munitions Israel has used, both offensively and defensively, have come from the United States of America. It's done. It's over. These are not internet dweebs, chatter. These are not internet dweebs. These are like Hosberists themselves, like the Avi Bitterman account is a Hosberist. This person is a Vox author. What are you talking about? Like, this person writes for Vox, okay? They're a relatively known, it's not their 45K reach. Shut up. What are you talking about? This is a person who literally writes for a reputable liberal institution. Okay? That's not just like a random dickhead on Twitter. We can stop the Israeli invasion of Gaza by ourselves. Invading a nuclear power is, I guess, in some sense, a true claim about the world, but I do not think it's usefully simplified to with one phone call. Israel should not be in Gaza. Netanyahu has no plan. He does not care about the lives of anyone there and is not achieving any conceivable legitimate war goal. I want to start talking to these people directly, okay? We should cancel aid. I don't think, though, I don't think that will actually change Israel's behavior substantially. Well, you're admitting it then. But because this situation has an enormous number of lives at stake and is very important, it's a good idea to be serious about what actions we can take. And it's incredibly frustrating to have interactions with people who take it as an article of faith that it'd be easy. It is easy. No, Biden could not have ended this with one phone call. It's not 1982. I like that she also, because she's a Vox author, she knows the history. Okay, it's not 1982. Is it not 2021 either? Yeah, an arms embargo and sanctions would probably do the trick. Oh, no shit. Oh, so you do agree with me. Oh, I got it. Oh, no. Oh, my God. It turns out you do agree with me when someone else says it. Yeah, no shit. Also, invading a country, a nuclear country, militarily is very different when we're talking about Israel versus Russia. Russia is a foreign adversary. No one actually wants to invade Israel militarily. It would never get to that point because Israel is an extension of America's imperial project. Israel does not exist without America. This admission here basically means, oh, you're right. I just don't want to agree with you. That's it. That's what for so many centrist liberals who want to defend Israel, it's literally about not giving an earnest, yeah, you were right all along and I was wrong all along. They have to literally try to desperately find something in their pathetic, egomaniacal, self-centered worldview where they just have to basically turn around and say, yeah, I think this person, you made a good point, which I personally said was a bad point earlier. Yeah, it's basically this. While you may have been correct all along about Israel's commitment to exterminating the population of Gaza, you were also someone I disliked due to petty political sectarianism. So in essence, it was your fault that I had to oppose you. It's literally, you were right all along, but you were rude about it. I didn't have to be rude about it. You were just in opposition to the right position at a time when I would have needed your support, at a time when we all would have needed all of your support. Biden probably could have used those other sanctions to pressure Israel. Oh, yeah, Biden can and should have done wildly more. We have a lot of leverage, and we're not even close to deploying it effectively. One phone call is a childish and false view of how that leverage works, but it does exist. The phone call is that. What do you think it means when I say one phone call? Do you think Biden or Donald Trump in that phone call is going to be like, hey, Bibi, I love you. How's the weather? That's not what they're going to say. They're going to say, stop it. You know what that means if you don't. She literally agrees with me 100%. These are supposed intelligent writers for liberal institutions. No wonder they lost the election. No wonder they're losing public support. Yes, it's so dumb. They literally do not have a choice. The following month, retired Israeli Major General Yitzhak Brik went even further than Galant. All our missiles, the ammunition, the precision-guided bombs, all the airplanes and bombs, it's all from the U.S., Brik said in an interview in November. The minute they turn off the tap, we can't keep fighting. You have no capability. Everyone understands that we can't fight this war without the United States, period. And if they're such an insane rogue state that we cannot tell them to stop doing things we don't want them to do on our dime, the solution doesn't seem like it's giving them tens of billions of dollars in additional funding as Biden did in real time. I'm going to actually save this. Am I wrong to think that if they choose to, by the way, you know what the other cynical side of this is that's really stupid that these people don't realize because they're too dumb to see anything beneath. They're too dumb to see anything outside of their horse blinders. My argument is the one that is against anti-Semitic fascists. Okay? Because if you develop a worldview, and many liberals have done this, right? Where they've developed this worldview where, like, we just simply can't stop Israel and we just simply have to keep giving them unlimited money. What do you think is the reason? Because if it's not America, which has all the power here, and refusing to stop it, then what is the reason? Is it Jewish mind control, perhaps? Is it the power of hypnosis? Is that the reason? Because that's what many people think now. Because you have designed a narrative that makes no logical sense. What do you think is the reason then? I know what the reason is. I say the truth. It's because America likes what Israel is doing. But liberals who also personally are beholden to Western chauvinistic framework, who also want to defend Israel and also defend the Democratic Party or the American institutions, literally cannot openly say America wants this to continue and that's why it's continuing. They have to say, no, Israel is a sovereign state. Israel is a totally separate sovereign state. They could do all of this stuff without us. They can't. Israel knows they can't do it. That's why it takes one phone call. That's it. Because if it doesn't take one phone call, and if it's not America actually allowing Israel to do all this shit, then what's the reason? What is the reason? What is the reason? You have no answer for this. Liberalism does not have an answer for this. Liberal Zionism does not have an answer for this. And that's why if you leave that puzzle with a piece missing, people plug their own puzzle piece on there, and that puzzle piece always is Jewish mind control. That's it. That's what a lot of people are arriving at the conclusion on. It's a dangerous one because it's untrue and also bigoted. People are opening the floodgates of fascism in this country, anti-Semitic fascism in this country, and so many liberals are basically championing it without realizing what this spells for their future prospects. It's additionally, if you're also a Jewish Zionist in this country, there is functionally no difference between what Nick Fuentes says and what liberal Zionists say. The only difference is liberal Zionists like what Israel is doing, and Nick Fuentes claims he hates it because they're Jews. Okay? That's it. That's it. They're saying the same shit. Their defense is the same. Or in Nick Fuentes' case, his offense is the same. And the more they cast aside people that do not abide by this framework, that like Israel is this false framework. Okay? I can't say Nick is in the wrong here, Cap. No, of course he's in the wrong, dumbass. What are you talking about? Of course he's in the wrong. He's saying the same shit that liberals are saying. The only difference is he's ostensibly against it. Okay? He is ostensibly against it. But the fundamentals are the same. That we just have some loyalty to Israel. That's what he's saying. And that Israel is doing this for all Jews. His different fundamental, his major difference, of course, between like Nick Fuentes and Jake Tapper is that Jake Tapper says Israel's doing this for Jews and it's a good thing. Nick Fuentes says Israel's doing this for Jews and it's a bad thing because Jews are bad. That's the only difference. But they're saying the same fucking shit. That's why so many people cope and say, oh, it must be. That's why so many people cope and say it must be blackmail because they can't recognize that America likes what Israel is doing. America allows Israel to keep doing what it's doing. So it must be that our big, beautiful politicians that otherwise would be based in anti-Semitism build must be getting blackmailed by the Jewish Mossad. That's it. That's the whole point. And it doesn't mean that like Mossad or the CIA doesn't engage in blackmail. Of course they do. But the real reason is not AIPAC. The real reason isn't blackmail. The real reason is because this is American foreign policy. Okay? This is a part of American foreign policy. They do not care that Israel is killing Palestinians. They do not care to give unlimited trillions of dollars to Israel to kill as many Palestinians as possible. They don't care. They want it. It has nothing to do with Judaism and everything to do with American imperialism. That's why it's fucking uniparty. There has to be a reason why they dick ride Israel so hard, though, no? Interpretation. Simply ahistoric. With one phone call. Without our unlimited behave in the belligerent ways it does. They realize this too. This kind of deflection, room for insane, creates room for insane Jewish blackmail conspiracies. This is silly and simply ahistoric. All right. And then I'm going to add this, I'm predicting you'll be enjoying your food in 15 minutes. No, you're wrong. I'm responding to that person. I'm going to say, this is silly and simply ahistoric. Biden stopped Israel in 2021 with one phone call. Without our unlimited support, Israel cannot behave in the belligerent ways it does. They realize this too. This kind of cynical deflection creates room for insane Jewish blackmail conspiracies. HasanAbi reply guys right now. Yeah, no, they are in this completely untenable position where they're literally saying what Israel's doing is wrong, but we're just like powerless to stop it. Okay, why the fuck?